Stay tuned and let's take a look at this Marvel Legends retro carded animated Spider-Man. Pow, and welcome back to the channel, Dan Who Reviews. As always, my name is Dan W. Make sure you are following me on Instagram at It's Dan Who. And remember, you can now hit that join button and become a channel member as well. Either show some love or join the members club. Much appreciated. Today, we are taking a look at the Marvel Legends retro carded animated Spider-Man. Now, you guys know I love that 90s animated Spider-Man cartoon. That, along with the X-Men, were my introduction to Marvel before I even started reading comics. So I will forever hold a very nostalgic soft spot for anything related to those two cartoons. And they have actually now gave us a cel-shaded animated inspired version of Spider-Man. Now, of course, this is a second opportunity for someone to get Spider-Man on this retro card before they unfortunately disappear, but more on that in a second. Here we have him in the packaging. He comes with 3 sets of hands, fisted, swipping, wall crawling, and then a couple of web splat accessories, as the box says. So you guys know I love this retro card, super nostalgic, very happy to see a couple more figures before the year is out. So there he is on the box, a much brighter version of Spider-Man as well, and he seems to be on the 60th anniversary body, so he is completely pinless but no toe articulation. Spin it round to the back, we're getting that very retro style silhouette sort of stencil that we got on all the Toy Biz cards back in the 90s, a picture of Spider-Man, and then we get a write-up that reads: "Bitten by a radioactive spider, mild-mannered Peter Parker becomes the wall-crawling, web-slinging, amazing Spider-Man." So you know I had to buy 2 of these, one to open and one to display, and I'm going to open this one up. But before I do, let's do a quick comparison compared to the previous retro carded Spider-Man. Here we have a side-by-side of both of our retro carded Spider-Man, and I do think this new one, at the end of the day, is going to be a little bit more desirable, as it makes more sense to have an animated inspired, cel-shaded, brighter Spider-Man on the animated retro card. The previous one held its own for a while, but we have now got an updated version of this body, which is pinless with toe articulation in the Renew Your Vows Spinneret 2-pack. The only thing going for it is that it was on a retro card, so it made for a great display piece. But now we have another opportunity to arguably get a more accurate animated Spider-Man on the very same retro card. So I do think this new one has took the shine away from this one. But this new one will definitely complement the only other figure that has the animated cel shading, which is of course Venom, which was a Pulse exclusive. Now, Venom is the only other retro carded Spider-Man that has the animated cel shading, as you can see the blues and the reds on this Venom. Now, I only brought one Venom, one to keep on card to display, so I haven't got an open one. So this is your animated Spider-Man and Venom comparison, but they complement each other very well and look beautiful on this nostalgic retro card. You know I'm a sucker for it, but I'm going to open this one and do some comparisons with all the other Spider-Man, and maybe we can figure out which is the best out of them all. Let's get them open. Here we have our animated Spider-Man out of the packaging with all of his accessories, which, as I mentioned, are his interchangeable hands, and then these web splat effects, which ain't going to be very useful for about anything. But if I move them to the side, my first impressions on Spider-Man himself. Now, the blue is a lot brighter, and he is on that 60th anniversary Spider-Man body. So we've got no pins, which is very nice, and the articulation is going to be great. He has got the cel shading. Now, that's not my personal preference. However, I've came to the sort of acceptance that the cel shading is there to differentiate our comic inspired figures from our animated inspired figures. So I understand why it's there, much like they've done with the VHS X-Men line. And talking about the VHS line, next year Hasbro are moving away from X-Men, taking a little hiatus, and they're focusing their VHS line on the animated Spider-Man series. I assume that is because they can't do retro cards anymore and we all love our Spider-Man fix. So I'm curious to see where that line goes. The first reveal seems to be a symbiote Spider-Man and a Carnage. So we shall see where we go. Maybe more cel shaded Spider-Man figures. We shall see. But I want to do some comparisons with this guy today to see if we can find out which is the best Marvel Legends Spider-Man. Before we do that, let's just take a closer look at Spider-Man, starting at the head sculpt, as the head is a little bit different to some of the previous Spider-Man. And if you see what I mean when I spin it to the side, it's a little bit more form-fitting, as you can see more of the structure of the face under the mask there, as you can see his nose and where the mouth would be. So I guess more form-fitting is the best way to explain that, but it is a little bit tighter than some of the previous Spider-Man head sculpts. But the lines are clean, the eyes are not too wide, they're not too small, but the head does seem to be a little bit smaller than some of the previous Spider-Man figures, but that's done intentionally, I feel. So there you go. It sort of cuts that very unique silhouette for our animated Peter Parker. It's a shame we didn't get an animated Peter Parker head. That would have really made this figure super desirable. But anyway, let's do a comparison compared to a couple of Spider-Man head sculpts just to show you what I mean. So first we have the retro version on the left, and then we have the brand new Spinneret 2-pack version on the right. And you can see that one has the much wider eyes. But each one of these head sculpts are a little bit different to the next. The reds are very similar. There may be a slight difference, but sometimes you can't even tell depending on what lights are under it. But yeah, all the head sculpts from our Spider-Mans are different. And because there's no cell shading on this animated version Spider-Man, on the head anyway, you could definitely do some swaps to your more preferred head. Taking a closer look at the rest of our Spider-Man, you can see here, it's a very nice silhouette. And I do think the brighter blue with the updated logo definitely just gives it those animated vibes. I don't know why, but it really does. So if anyone's curious, this is on the exact same body as the 60th anniversary Amazing Spider-Man. So of course it doesn't have the hole for the web wings on the back, but otherwise it is exactly the same figure from toes all the way up, and the heads are different of course, but the bodies are the same. So if you've got this guy, you sort of know what range our new animated Spider-Man is going to give you. But before we look at that, let's just take a closer look at this figure and the details on him. So of course we've got the updated logo on the front and the updated animated logo on the back, and then we have the cell shading on the figure. So again, it's completely pinless like the 60th anniversary Spider-Man. So no pins on the elbows, no pins on the knees, but we do have the cell shading on the inside of the arms. So it's pretty symmetrical, to be fair, up top, as you have the same dark blue cell shading under both of the arms, and then you have some cell shading under the arms as well on the top of the diaphragm going all the way across. As I said, they are symmetrical from each other, so that's where your cell shading is. We've also sort of got some animated style lines as well here as well that go across on both pieces, but it doesn't bother me too much. And then on the legs, it's got the outside of this one, the inside of this one has the darker blue moving down to the boots as well. You can see a little bit of shadow there too. So there you go. That's where all the cell shading is for anyone curious. And it depending on how you stand him, to be fair, on the shelf, it does sort of create the look of like natural shadows. So it's something I've grew to accept, but as I keep saying, not my preferred sort of paint job on an action figure. But it's there for our animated figures. That's what it's there for. So mine's pretty good overall. It just has a few blemishes, as you can see here. A little bit of white there on the belt for some reason. But my overall, the mesh and the Spider-Man design is pretty clean. On the back though, my logo has like a black line going down, which I don't think should be there, and then another white blemish there, like a little scratch, which I couldn't see because this figure was facing forward on the retro card, so that was disappointing to discover once I opened him up. But other than that though, that is what we've got for our animated Spider-Man. Brighter blue, cell shading, and a new head, but it's the same body as this. In regards to accessories, he has 3 sets of hands. Out of the box, he comes with a set of fisted hands, wall crawling hands, which are quite expressive and can be used for multiple things. And of course, it wouldn't be Spider-Man if we didn't have a set of 2 sweet swipping hands. His other accessories are a little bit awkward, as they are the 2 web splat effects. One's a little bit bigger than the other one. Now, all I have done is copied exactly what Toy Shiz did, and he's plugged the fingers of the web swipping hands through the web hole to sort of create this sort of web splat look. Now, it doesn't look too natural, definitely doesn't look too dynamic, so you're going to have to get clever and creative when you're going to use these on a display. Now, they undoubtedly look like spider webs painted in a white colour. However, we're sort of making the most of them here because I don't know how else you're meant to display them, but you get 2 of them, one big, one small, to web splats. So not my favourite segment, but I do think it's worthy of a Spider-Man action figure. So let's do articulation. So the arms will go all the way up to 90. There is a bicep swivel and there is a double jointed elbow, which works pretty well. There's a hinge on the wrist as well, of course. And there's also a butterfly joint that goes more back than it does forward, but it's still got a decent bit of range there. I've already showed you that the head will look down really well and also look good up, like really good. Like the guy can fly. So yeah, web swinging poses are going to be no problem at all. His head will go back because there's a little bit of gappage at the back of the head, but it doesn't break up any of the design, so I'm fine with that. We have the diaphragm joint, so if you articulate him, it will break up the design, but that's where you get your swivel and a bit of tilt and obviously a bit forward, a bit back, but you utilize that with the waist sort of crunch now, which is there, and you utilize them both together and you can get him like all crunched up looking under his legs, no problem at all, and leaning back doing the limbo as the limbo king. So pretty good range overall on that. The legs will go really far forward, like really good, and it doesn't even have drop down hips, but the legs will go really far up. Double jointed knees, he can kick his own ass all day long. And then the beautiful thing about the Spider-Man design is that it breaks the boot cut up very nicely hidden in the design with ankle pivot and rocker. But yeah, legs go out about that far as well. Like, so you can't do the splits exactly, but still decent enough. So yeah, some actually think this body has more articulation and range than the Spinneret 2-pack version, but each to their own, but there we go. And here we have our Spider-Man comparison. So please let me know in the comments below, which do you feel is the best Spider-Man Marvel Legend, as it is definitely one of these on the table. So we've got the original retro Spider-Man, the Renew Your Vows 2-pack Spider-Man, this new animated retro Spider-Man, the 60th anniversary Amazing Spider-Man, and then the classic Pizza Spider-Man, once everyone's favourite. Now let me just move him out of the way for a second, just to show you the height difference here, as this Spider-Man is about 6 inches tall compared to like the Spinneret 2-pack Spider-Man, which is definitely like a quarter of an inch taller than him. So there is definitely a height difference between all of these Spider-Man, as you can see, but also design differences, as each one of these has a completely different spider logo on the chest. All of their colours are a little bit different. Definitely the blues. Some of the reds look very similar, especially amongst these three in the middle. So I do think head swapping is fair game. But the previous two maybe are a little bit of darker red. Definitely darker blues on the other one. This one's more of a black than it is a blue, but it is accurate to its original appearance. So yeah, now you have options, people. Options are never a bad thing, especially for an A-list, one of the most popular Marvel characters, Spider-Man. So yeah, you let me know in the comments below, which do you think is the best Marvel Legends Spider-Man? And before we move on, a quick look of all of these Spider-Man from behind, as they all have a different unique Spider-Man logo on the back, all similar but a little bit different. Only the Pizza Spider-Man figure has a peg hole in the back. For anyone curious, here we have a look at the Unmaster Peter Parker head that came in the Renew Your Vows 2-pack on this animated Spider-Man body. I think it works pretty well, however it's not accurate to the animated show, so it's pretty obsolete. We definitely need a Peter Parker Spider-Man from the animated show, which we may actually get in that VHS line next year. Time will tell. And just to throw a couple of other Spider-Man bodies into the mix, here we have Spider-Man UK, which is on a bit of a broader body, and then we have Ben Reilly here, which I believe was on Spider-Man 2099 as well, maybe, but he has the pins, so they're very clear when Spider-Man doesn't have a pinless body. It's quite jarring. But if I move him out the way and bring in the Kid Spider-Man body, I've actually got rid of my Kid Spider-Man, but I still have Miles here, and you can see how that is a lot shorter compared to our animated. Here we have Symbiote Spider-Man on the original retro body, and then we have Venom. Now, of course, I've already showed you the retro carded animated cell shaded Venom with the reds and blues. I have no doubts he will complement this animated Spider-Man very well, but I don't have a loose one, unfortunately. I am curious though about that new VHS Spider-Man line, as that is going to have a Symbiote Spider-Man. Is it going to be this exact body but painted black? I wouldn't be mad at it. Here we have retro Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy, but if you remember the animated show, Gwen Stacy wasn't in it. So let's take Gwen away and bring in Mary Jane, now I would love to see an animated inspired Mary Jane with like the bright yellow jumper. That would be really nice, but these still look good together. Here we have a couple of random Spider-Man villains that I've just took off the shelf. We have the recent Retro Lizard, which is a beautiful Marvel legend. And then we have Craven, who is definitely worthy of an animated update as his design in the cartoon is a little bit more vibrant. Here we have a couple more retro Spider-Man figures of characters heavily featured in the animated show with J. Jonah Jameson and Black Cat, aka Felicia Hardy. I would love to get more civilian characters from that animated show like Felicia. We shall see. To be honest, the possibilities of that VHS line is endless, as so many Marvel characters made an appearance in that 90s show, including an episode where we had an animated War Machine fighting a Baron Mordo and Dormammu, and of course Captain America also appeared in it as well. So yeah, again, time will tell here, but a lot of potential. And finally, some colourful characters that didn't appear in the animated show, but definitely should have. Here we have Frogman, Tigra and White Rabbit. And last but never least, here we have Captain Britain and Hal Fire Hank. So, final thoughts on this Marvel Legends retro carded, animated inspired Spider-Man. Now, if you guys watch this channel, then you probably already know I love the retro cards, and that Spider-Man animated cartoon from the 90s is the reason I love Marvel so much to this day, as it introduced me to so many characters. So of course I'm gonna like an animated inspired Spider-Man on that retro card. I'm a sucker for it. I brought two, one to open and one to display, and I'm well aware that you don't come to me for action figure poses. I just like to give you some information on your purchase and where it will fit in your collection with some fun comparisons. But even I can get him in a fun dynamic pose on a flight stand. It is a very solid Marvel Legends base body for Spider-Man, and it does come with all the right set of hands. Now, we could be greedy and ask for more interchangeable heads, etc., but for what it is, it's a very nice Spider-Man. Now, cell shading isn't my favorite thing about Marvel Legends. However, as I keep saying, I have come to accept it's there to differentiate our Marvel Legends from comic to animated. So again, bring on that VHS line. I'm very curious to see what we get there, and will they continue the cell shading format in that VHS line? As long as all the figures from one collection are cohesive and all have the same style, then I'm happy for it. But I can't be mixing VHS cell shaded figures with my comic figures. It just doesn't make sense to my brain. But that's just me. You let me know in the comments below how you feel about this animated Spider-Man. Are you in for that future VHS Spider-Man line? Always curious to hear your thoughts. And if you like Marvel Legends, then guess what? You're in the right place. Check out the videos tab. Find the playlist, but most importantly, please, please, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, don't miss out on a video, and please hit that join button, become a channel member, either show some love or join the members club. Much appreciated. You can follow me on Instagram at It's Dan Who, and I'm on Twitter as well. Tweet me, don't be shy, at Dan Who Reviews. And until then, people, long live the retro card, and I will see you on the next one.